Welcome to Insights That Matters. You know, the show that takes you straight to the heart of the business world.
Trying to help you understand those forces that are shaping the world all around you.
And today we're diving deep into Nazara Technologies.
Yeah.
Making waves in India and beyond.
Yeah, definitely making waves.
Got their fingers in everything from esports to educational apps for kids. And they've been attracting some serious attention from investors.
They have. And what's really interesting is how Nazara has built this diverse portfolio. I mean, they're not just a gaming company, you know?
Right.
They've got a real understanding of the Indian market and how to cater to its needs.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore today. We're going to break down their recent performance and their strategic moves.
Yeah.
What it all means for the future of entertainment, not just in India, but globally.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to get into it?
Absolutely.
Let's dive right in. All right, so first things first, let's paint a picture of just how diverse this portfolio really is. We're talking about three main segments.
Yeah.
Gaming, esports, and ad tech. Each one contributes to their revenue, but they're not all created equal.
You're right. And they've got this global presence, actually, with North America being their biggest market, followed by India and then the rest of the world. But what's clever is how they're leveraging their understanding of the Indian market to make strategic moves in the global arena.
Now, you mentioned strategic moves, and that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Nazara has been on an acquisition spree lately.
Oh, yeah.
They recently raised a whopping 900 crore rupees. It's over $100 million to fuel their growth.
Right.
It means some significant acquisitions.
The one that really caught my eye was their acquisition of PokerBaazi,
Oh, yeah.
the leading online poker platform in India, and it shows that Nazara is serious about tapping into the skill-based gaming market.
Think about it. The skill-based gaming market in India is huge.
It is.
It's not just about poker. You've got fantasy sports,
Right.
rummy. There's a whole ecosystem built around these games, and with the right strategy, Nazara could become a dominant player.
Absolutely. And they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They've also doubled down on their investment in NOD Gaming,
Right.
which is already a major player in the esports scene. This tells me they have a lot of confidence in the future of competitive gaming, both in India and globally.
And let's not forget their other acquisitions. Kidopia, which focuses on educational games for kids. Fusebox Games in the UK, which develops games based on popular intellectual property. And even a stake in Stan, an esports community app. They're clearly thinking long-term and covering all their bases.
It's like they're building an empire, brick by brick, carefully selecting each piece to create a comprehensive and interconnected entertainment ecosystem.
Exactly. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
It's not.
Like any company, Nazara faces its share of challenges.
Yeah, no business operates in a vacuum. One of the biggest hurdles they've had to deal with recently is the impact of India's New Goods and Services Tax Regulations, or GST.
Right.
This has put a squeeze on profits in the online gaming industry, especially for smaller players.
That's a really important point, because even when a company is performing well, external factors like government regulations can have a significant impact.
Absolutely.
So how is Nazara adapting to this new landscape?
Well, they're not just sitting back and taking it. They're being proactive. They've started shifting away from lower margin businesses, particularly in their ad tech segment, and focusing more on products and services that are more profitable.
So they're streamlining their operations, becoming more efficient, and making sure every rupee counts?
Exactly. They're also doing something quite interesting.
Okay.
They're creating what they call centers of excellence for areas like data analytics, user acquisition, and artificial intelligence.
Now, for those of us who aren't tech wizards, break that down a bit. What exactly are these centers of excellence, and why are they so important?
Think of them as hubs where Nazara brings together their top talent and resources in specific areas. By centralizing these functions, they're aiming to become more efficient, share knowledge more effectively, and ultimately drive innovation across the entire company. It's a long-term investment in their future.
So it's not just about cutting costs. It's about building a foundation for sustainable growth, which is something I know you're always emphasizing.
Absolutely. You've got to have a solid foundation if you want to build something that lasts.
Now let's zoom in on one particular segment that's caught my attention. Kidopia, their educational games division.
Okay.
They've been facing some headwinds in the kids app market, particularly with rising customer acquisition costs.
Yes, the kids app market is incredibly competitive. It's a tough space to stand out, especially when you're trying to attract a young audience with limited attention spans. And those acquisition costs can really eat into your profits.
So what's Nazara's strategy for turning things around?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. They've decided to partner with some major global brands, some household names that kids absolutely adore. And I'm not talking about small-time players. We're talking about brands with massive global reach and recognition.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat. Who are these mystery partners?
Let's save that reveal for a little bit later in our deep dive. But for now, just imagine the possibilities. These partnerships could completely transform Kidopia's user base and open up a world of opportunities.
I can't wait to hear more about that. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's unpack the implications of these partnerships a bit. Why are they so significant for Nazara?
Think about it this way. By partnering with these global brands, Nazara is instantly tapping into a massive pre-existing audience. Kids already know and love these characters, so the appeal is built in.
That's right. It's like a shortcut to success, isn't it? Instead of spending a fortune on marketing and trying to build brand awareness from scratch, they're leveraging the power of these established brands to draw users in organically.
Exactly. And not only that, but these partnerships could open up new revenue streams for Nazara. Think merchandise licensing opportunities, even potential collaborations on new games or educational content. The possibilities are endless.
So it's not just about boosting Kidopia's performance. It's about creating a ripple effect across the entire Nazara ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Fascinating.
To make their structure even more streamlined, they've merged Kidopia's parent company Paper Boat Apps with Nazara itself. This gives them more flexibility with their funds and simplifies their overall operations. It's like they're clearing the decks and getting ready for a major push forward.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've talked about Nazara's diverse portfolio, their aggressive acquisition strategy, and their bold moves in the kids app market.
Yeah.
But what does all of this mean for their future? Where are they headed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's explore that very question in just a moment.
Sounds good.
So before we went to that quick pause, we were talking about those global brand partnerships.
Right, and I'm particularly curious about those global brand partnerships you mentioned. Those have the potential to be real game changers.
Well, get this, Kidopia is teaming up with none other than Disney and Marvel.
Wow, that's massive. Talk about instant brand recognition. I mean, those are some of the biggest names in entertainment globally.
Exactly. Think about it. This gives Kidopia access to a treasure trove of beloved characters.
Yeah.
From Mickey Mouse and Frozen to Spider-Man and the Avengers. The possibilities for creating engaging educational content are practically endless.
It's interesting to think about the impact this could have on their bottom line. We were talking earlier about those rising customer acquisition costs in the kids app market. This could really help mitigate that.
Absolutely. Partnering with brands like Disney and Marvel is like a shortcut to attracting a huge audience.
Right.
Kids are already drawn to these characters, so it's a natural fit.
It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Disney and Marvel get to expand their reach into the educational gaming market, and Kidopia gets a massive boost in visibility and appeal.
Not to mention the potential for merchandising and licensing opportunities.
Yeah, cool.
Nazara could create a whole new revenue stream based on these partnerships.
So it's not just about educational games anymore. It's about creating a whole entertainment ecosystem around these beloved characters. That's a really smart move by Nazara.
It speaks to their understanding of the evolving entertainment landscape. It's not just about creating content anymore. It's about creating experiences.
Okay, so we've talked about these big-name partnerships and their potential impact. But let's zoom out for a minute and talk about Nazara's overall vision for the future. They've made it clear they're aiming for higher profit margins and aggressive growth.
And they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk. All of their recent moves, from the acquisitions to the restructuring to these partnerships, are geared towards achieving those goals.
They're clearly playing the long game here, and it seems like they have a solid plan in place. But as we've discussed, there are always challenges. The Indian gaming market is still relatively young, and there are regulatory hurdles and infrastructure limitations they'll need to navigate.
That's true, but so far they've shown a remarkable ability to adapt and innovate. I have no doubt they'll find creative solutions to overcome these challenges. What's important is that they're staying ahead of the curve when it comes to technology and understanding user preferences.
And let's not forget the intense competition in the gaming industry. They need to constantly innovate and find ways to stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. But from what we've seen, they have a talented team, a clear vision, and the resources to compete on a global scale. They're a company to watch, for sure.
You know, we've talked a lot about their moves in the mobile gaming space. But let's not forget their acquisition of PokerBazi. That signifies a serious move into the skill-based gaming market, which is a whole other ballgame.
Right. And that market is booming in India.
Yeah.
People are passionate about games like poker rummy and fantasy sports. It's a huge opportunity for Nazara.
And they're not just focused on India. With PokerBazi under their belt, they could potentially expand into other markets where skill-based gaming is taking off.
Yeah.
It's a global phenomenon, and Nazara seems well-positioned to capitalize on that.
It's a smart move to diversify their portfolio and tap into a rapidly growing market. It shows that they're not content to just rest on their laurels. They're constantly looking for ways to expand their reach and grow their business.
It's inspiring to see an Indian company making such bold moves on the international stage.
Absolutely. Now, before we get too carried away with their future prospects, it's important to acknowledge that there are always risks involved in any business venture. The gaming industry is notoriously fickle, and consumer preferences can change quickly.
That's a good point to keep in mind. No matter how well a company is performing, there's always a degree of uncertainty. But that's part of what makes business so exciting, isn't it?
It certainly keeps things interesting, but based on what we've seen so far, I'd say Nazara has a strong foundation and a solid strategy in place. They're definitely a company to watch.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about Nazara's impressive growth, their strategic acquisitions, and their bold moves into new markets. But what does it all mean for our listeners? What can we learn from Nazara's story?
That's a great question. I think there are several key takeaways here. First, Nazara's success is a testament to the incredible growth potential of the Indian market. We're talking about a young, digitally savvy population with a rapidly growing middle class. That's a recipe for explosive growth in industries like gaming and entertainment.
So we were talking about Nazara's success and what it tells us about the Indian market.
Exactly. It's a signal to investors and entrepreneurs that there's a lot of untapped potential in India, especially in sectors like gaming and digital entertainment. Nazara is a prime example of what's possible when you understand the market and have a clear vision.
And it's not just about understanding the Indian market. Nazara is also thinking globally. They're making acquisitions in other countries, partnering with international brands. They're not afraid to step outside their comfort zone.
And that's another important takeaway. Diversification is key. Nazara hasn't put all their eggs in one basket. They've spread their risk by investing in different segments of the gaming and entertainment industry. They've got mobile games, esports, educational apps, skill-based gaming. This makes them more resilient to market fluctuations.
It's like they're building a safety net, but also creating multiple avenues for growth.
Exactly. And this is a lesson that applies to individuals as well. Don't just focus on one skill or one area of expertise. Branch out, explore different opportunities, diversify your portfolio. It's about creating a more stable and sustainable future for yourself.
Now, speaking of sustainability, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. We're talking about a company that's growing rapidly, making acquisitions, investing in new technologies. How do they ensure that this growth is sustainable, that they're not just chasing short-term gains?
Well, that's where their focus on profitability comes in. Remember, they're shifting away from lower margin businesses and focusing on products and services with higher profit potential. They're streamlining their operations, creating those centers of excellence to improve efficiency. They're being smart about how they allocate their resources.
And it's not just about financial sustainability. They're also thinking about the social and environmental impact of their operations.
Absolutely. They've publicly committed to responsible gaming practices. They're promoting digital literacy and education through their products. They're even investing in renewable energy sources to power their offices and data centers. They're taking a holistic approach to sustainability.
It's refreshing to see a company that's not just focused on the bottom line, but also on making the positive impact on the world.
It's not just the right thing to do, it's also good for business. Consumers are becoming more conscious of the values and practices of the companies they support. So for Nazara, sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's a core part of their strategy.
Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask, what are your predictions for Nazara's future? What does their crystal ball look like?
Well, I'm not a fortune teller. But based on their current trajectory, I'd say the future looks bright. They've got a strong leadership team, a solid financial foundation, and a clear vision for the future. They're making smart moves, taking calculated risks, and constantly innovating. I wouldn't be surprised to see them become a global entertainment powerhouse in the coming years.
So it's not just about gaming anymore. It's about entertainment in the broadest sense. Movies, music, sports, education. Nazara is positioning itself to be a major player in all of these areas.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes their story so compelling. They're not just a company, they're a reflection of the changing face of India. They're ambitious, they're innovative, they're global. They're a symbol of what's possible in the 21st century.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of Nazara Technologies. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. And for our listeners, if you found this deep dive insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe to Insights That Matters. We'll be back with another deep dive soon. Until then, keep exploring and keep learning.
Thanks for joining us.